Story 1. Iris by Goo Goo Dolls. They played this song at my younger sister's funeral, and now, even 7 years later, if I hear the opening riff, I tear up. I also get nauseous. Grief songs hit differently. Story 2. Got it. Here's a song that's certain to cast a shadow over your joy. Rick Astley, Never Gonna Give You Up. Millions of internet users reportedly experienced feelings of anguish upon the opening of the soundtrack. Is there anything else I can help you with? Story 3. Hurt by Johnny Cash. He owned that song. Soldier of Heaven by Sabaton. Learn history. Cry over the ghost of a departed soldier that will never leave his post. Dan Vasc does a beautiful cover of Amazing Grace. Wrong Side of Heaven by Five Finger Death Punch. Monsters by Shinedown. How Did You Love by Shinedown. Story 4. When it comes on the radio while driving, I have to switch the station immediately. It wouldn't be prudent to drive with blurry, watery eyes. Story 5. The song The Gambler by Fun is about growing old together. My husband had a cancer scare when we were in our early 30s. It was a false alarm, but for a week or so, I was grappling with the thought of living the rest of my life without him, experiencing big, heaving sobs every time. Story 6. I'm not sorry in the slightest for how hard I'm about to nerd out, but Rufus Wainwright, the person who sings the version of Hallelujah in Shrek, did a song for Rings of Power Season 2 called Old Tom Bombadil, and I can't listen to it without tearing up. It just feels like an old folk song from a golden time we once had but have now lost. Wainwright's voice has always been so haunting to me. Even if you know nothing about Lord of the Rings, I feel like everyone should listen to this song. Story 7. For a while, these brought tears. Not so much now. For my young, late niece, the band Perry, If I Die Young. For my late wife, Three Doors Down, Here Without You. Five Finger Death Punch, Wrong Side of Heaven. Story 8. Letters from Home make my wife and me a little emotional. They take us back to my 4 military deployments over the years, missing family and events. My son is in the military, and we were both deployed at the same time, so it still kind of hits hard. Story 9. I lost my mom to cancer almost 5 years ago, and my dad's health is deteriorating, though he's still hanging in there. This song reminds me of them, especially with how often I heard it as a kid. While this isn't exactly a song but a specific music video, I can't help it whenever this video for No Bullets Fly by Sabaton plays. This story has such a good ending and honors a couple of people whose story should be turned into a movie already. It would be such an amazing war drama. Story 10. Beatles in my life. I've moved a lot, both in childhood and adulthood. I always put this on when I'm packing up the last of my stuff, and it cuts deep. Story 11. Eric Clapton, Wonderful Tonight, was always a favorite of mine. My dad died, and it was a song my mom chose as part of his funeral. I've not been able to hear it since without breaking to some degree. Story 12. One I had heard recently and haven't been able to give it a second listen as of yet is Chris Cornell's cover of Guns N' Roses' Patience. Story 13. Never ugly cried to a song like that in my life. Turned on my Spotify while driving to work. Had to pull over. Basically, it's a song from the perspective of the fat friend in a group of skinny ones. All of my friends are smaller than me, and that song is like every goddamn inner thought I've never said out loud to them. Story 14. How Far I'll Go from Moana. Part of Your World from The Little Mermaid. I'll Follow You Into the Dark by Death Cab for Cutie. Easy on Me by Adele. I'm just a big old cry baby. I don't know. Story 15. 7 Spanish Angels. Willie Nelson and Ray Charles. If I'm driving and it comes on, I have to pull over and just listen to the story. Always brings me to tears. Story 16. I'm sorry, but I'm just thinking of the right words to say. I know they don't sound the way I planned them to be, but if you wait around a while, I'll make you fall for me. I promise you, I will. Story 17. Invisible by Patti LuPone. As If We Never Said Goodbye by Glenn Close. MacArthur Park by Richard Harris. Gilliam/Breathe Me by Sia. Here's to Life by Shirley Horn. Maria the Poet by Max Richter. Story 18. Your Love by The Outfield reminds me of when I was young, and I went with my best friend to the beach for the first time. He had an older stepsister who was somehow into me, and I was into her. The song has this feel of summer to it, and it kind of just makes me think of her every now and then. Story 19. Father and Son Cat Stevens. My dad passed away in 2020, and I am raising two small boys myself. Same with Patch's Clarence Carter, we were both musicians, and he always sang it as a joke. It makes me well up something bad. I miss my old man. Story 20. Outro by M83 makes me think about death that comes at the end of a long, hard-fought battle with illness or sickness. It makes me think of my own mortality and that of my loved ones. Story 21. Drop by French 79. You wouldn't think an electronic instrumental could be so moving, but this really does it for me. I want it played at my funeral when I die. Story 22. Clocks by Coldplay instantly transports me to May 5, 2002, the darkest and most tragic day of my life. That was the day my dad passed away at age 62 at home from a massive heart attack. Story 23. Keep Me in Your Heart for a While by Warren Zevon, recorded as his sun was setting and he was running out of breath. The whole album is one big last hurrah, but this song just wrecks me. Story 24. Every Other Weekend by Reba McEntire and Concrete Angel by Martina McBride. Every Other Weekend reminds me of when my parents first split up, and all those emotions come back. Concrete Angel makes me think of my niece who passed away when she was 2.5 years old. I no longer listen to them unless I want to cry. Story 25. The Weight by the Band. It makes me think of my dad. One of his favorite movies was Easy Rider. I remember 10 years ago listening to it while drunk and started crying. It still makes me well up when sober. Story 26. I Do It For You by Bryan Adams. Whenever it came on the radio, my dad would sing it to my mom. He passed away from COVID-19, and every time I hear it, I have to change it because I just miss him so much. Story 27. I am particularly susceptible to evocative music, especially when listening to it in a quiet, calm setting. These can really get to me. Ontario by Novo Amor is a beautiful song with considerable lyrical complexity. Its ending has a gentle rise of strings and orchestra that transforms its somber, pining feel and floods you with emotion. It's only a few seconds, but it has a lasting impact on me. Another example is Saturn by Sleeping at Last. The band has a lot of evocative music, but this one, with its nostalgic, introspective strings, gently padding piano, and lyrics that tear your heart between the sweetness of nostalgia and the beauty of existence at the same time. Goodness, that song is a work of art. Story 28. Pearl Jam, Just Breathe. I was 30 minutes away, after driving 12 hours straight, from the hospital to see my grandma. My dad called and told me she had passed, and that was the song playing during that call. Story 29. I Will Always Think of You by Honey Sugarman and Eddie. Can't Believe I Forgot Alone, and The Feelings Back by Suicidal Tendencies. Story 30. Listen to it with my little brother as we drove to the hospital to say goodbye to our stepdad. The day the whole world went away, 9-inch nails. Makes me think of my grandma. Story 31. Rose Tattoo by Dropkick Murphys. It didn't mean much until I heard it the day after my mom passed away. Now it hits like a ton of bricks. Today is the 2-year anniversary of her death, and my stupid Pandora mix played it for me. Story 32. Then the nurse comes around, and everyone lifts their head. I'm thinking of what Sarah said. Love is watching someone die. So who's going to watch you die? I've watched the deaths of so many loved ones. It's hard. It means everything to the one dying, but eats away a part of your soul. It's a sacrifice as a final showing of love. It also plays into the existential dread of outliving the ones you love. If you are there for them, who's going to be with you? Story 33. Symphony Clean Bandit, 2017. Happier Marshmello featuring Bastille, 2018. Both of these more because of the official music video than the lyrics, though. Story 34. The Star-Spangled Banner. Hear Me Out. While visiting Fort McHenry, where Francis Scott Key wrote the poem that became the song, I learned the history of the song and the context in which it was written. I don't know why, but museums, historical objects, songs, and things like that bring me back like tiny time machines. Every time I hear the song now, I can vividly imagine how he felt as a prisoner on a British ship, unable to do anything but watch from a window and see if the flag of his country still stood after a night of battle. I know that America has a lot of problems, and I'm not particularly patriotic, but dang, that song is great. Story 35. The story may not be needed here, but I have fallen in love with a transgender person unexpectedly. Puzzle pieces for both of us have fallen into place effortlessly. His children have accepted me and somehow value me. Not long ago, I did not even value myself. It caused me to realize my utter selfishness and how my behaviors reflected my own self-loathing. For more years than I want to admit, I have lived with a hollow heart, lying to myself. It's all different now. Thankfully, it is not too late to set myself ablaze and love again. Story 36. I know the original poster only asked for one, but I'm picking a few. 3 Days Grace, Never Too Late. Evanescence, My Immortal. Gary Jules, Mad World. Ben Folds, Still Reprise. Five Finger Death Punch, Remember Everything. Don McLean, Vincent. Story 37. Honestly, one of the reasons I love metal is because you can't really make out the lyrics. I don't care what the lyrics are because it all sounds awesome. Musically, Sound of the Bell by Orbit Culture is a beautifully haunting masterpiece. But then, when you look at the lyrics and see it's all based on school shootings from the perspective of the shooter and victims, it's a hard hit to the gut. I myself don't have kids, don't want any, but I can't imagine the unspoken fear parents must feel every day sending their kids to where they are supposed to be safe, only to fear getting calls or seeing news about a shooting. This line in particular seems to always get to me, just imagining people hiding in fear, kids hiding in fear. If this is the last time, I will hold your hand. I'll always remember this last time I'll see you. The fear. It came alive. If this is the last time we will hold our hands, I will always hold on. Hold on. If you want to listen, here you go. Story 38. Don't Take the Girl by Tim McGraw. I'm not religious, but the line about him asking God to save his wife and kid at the cost of himself. It gets me every time. Story 39. 1. Nan's Song by Robbie Williams because we played it at my Nan's funeral. You said when you died that you'd walk with me every day, and I started to cry and said, please don't talk that way. With a blink of an eye, the Lord came and asked you to leave. You went to a better place, but they stole you away from me. By the Grace of God by Katy Perry. Not even remotely religious, but this song hit something in me when I was in a domestic violence relationship and how much my best friend saved me. Story 40. Right Here Waiting, Richard Marx. I was unpacking after an immersive year abroad as an exchange student to Ecuador from the United States, 17 years old, when I heard it the first time. This was back before the internet and email. When you traveled somewhere, your whole being and mind and soul were there. Those first notes still grab my heart. Story 41. God Gave Me You by Blake Shelton. Long story short, I was dating this girl in my early 20s. Things hadn't been so awesome for a couple of weeks. I was driving home from seeing her, contemplating how to end the relationship. This song comes on the radio and I feel my eyes welling up, and you get that feeling in the pit of your stomach. Just about a decade later, it's the song for our first dance at our wedding, and I tear up every time I've heard it since. Story 42. Hurt, Johnny Cash. For some reason, that song came on the radio when I was driving back from the hospital where I just saw my mom die about 15 years ago. It hit me straight in the feels back then, and now it always will. Story 43. Strange by Celeste. I first heard it on Ted Lasso, and now I'll pull it up every now and then just to feel a little bit of heartache. It's relieving for some reason. Story 44. To Be With You, Mr. Big. Bess, Quiche. I'm alright. You di Messina. The first two are my mom's favorite songs, and the third got me through 2 years of near homelessness. Story 45. The dawn came late and the breakfast had to wait. When the gales of November came slashing. When afternoon came it was freezing rain. In the face of a hurricane west wind. When supper time came, the old cook came on deck saying, fellows, it's too rough to feed you. At 7 p.m., A main hatchway caved in, he said. Fellows, it's been good to know you. The captain wired in he had water coming in, and the good ship and crew were in peril. And later that night, when his lights went out of sight, came the wreck of the Edmund Fitzgerald. Does anyone know where the love of God goes? When the waves turn the minutes to hours. Story 46. Somewhere Over the Rainbow by Israel Kemakawiwole. It was playing on the radio on the way home from the hospital the day my mother passed away, and again on the way to her funeral. Story 47. I just commented on a similar post, and then this one popped up while scrolling. Show Me Around by Carly Pierce. My little sister unexpectedly died when she was 10, almost 5 years ago. I'm not very religious, but it helps to picture her alive somewhere. So, the lines, I bet you're up there right now, making plans and writing out all your favorite places that you just can't wait to take us, hit extremely hard. Story 48. Shadows are falling and I'm running out of breath. Keep me in your heart for a while. If I leave you, it doesn't mean I love you any less. Keep me in your heart for a while. When you get up in the morning and you see that crazy sun, keep me in your heart for a while. There's a train leaving nightly called, when all is said and done, keep me in your heart. Story 49. In the Arms of the Angel, Sarah McLachlan. Before it was played for commercials, I played it while my sister was in a coma for a month in high school. I can't listen to it anymore, though. Story 50. I Will Always Love You. It's like a visceral reaction when she goes, and I just get instantly choked up. I'm not sad. It's just so powerful that my eyes well up. Story 51. As of late, it's been I'll Be by Edwin McCain. My stepdad passed away from alcohol-induced liver failure 2 years ago. Leading up to the end, we were singing to him when he was semi-lucid. My twin sister was singing it to him, and he just closed his eyes, listening intently, humming with her, and seemed comforted. He loved girly romantic songs and movies despite acting like a macho man all the time.